going to record a wee video on how we grow and harvest our garlic. I recently showed on a Vlogtober episode how we were planting our garlic, but I had a couple of questions for a bit more detail, so I'm going to record how we do it and speak a bit about what we do and what we use and how we treat our garlic once we harvest it as well. So first off, I'll show you our garlic we harvested this past year. Now this is one of our bulbs of garlic. As you can see, it is really very big. It's not as big as my head, honestly, but it's really large. We get really good heads of garlic now. We plant our own seed garlic. We used to grow seed garlic that we got from the organic gardening catalogue in the UK, which I think is organiccatalogue.com. We don't buy from them anymore because we use our own, and because of that, that's why we get these huge heads of garlic. What we do is when we plant them, we only plant really good size cloves, not the little tiddly cloves. So when we used to plant all the cloves from the whole head of the garlic from the seed catalogue, and consequently some of those cloves would be small, and some of our heads of garlic when we harvest them would be small as well. Now they're almost all really big like this. I will try and remember, well, we do get a few small ones, but very few. I will try and insert a photo here of our harvest from this last year, from this year, and also a photo, if I can find one, of the previous harvest as well, and it gives you a good idea of the size they come out. Now, we've been growing garlic for several years up on Orkney, and there's a few things we found through trial and error. First of all, we only grow hardneck garlic now. We have tried both hardneck and softneck, and we've grown them both in the same year to compare them. And we found the softneck tends to rot off quite quickly. We have quite a damp climate. I guess if you had a much drier climate, those perhaps you would find otherwise. Also, the hardneck garlic seems to store better. It's supposed to be not as good for storing as the softneck garlic, but we found that to not be the case. It keeps quite well. It keeps for several months. By the time it's getting well past its best, you're starting to kind of harvest some of the garlic from the garden, and certainly you're harvesting the garlic tops and the garlic skips from the garden. So we only plant our own now, and I'll show you how we do that. First of all, we'll take some bulbs where the outer skin perhaps isn't sealed up completely. I'm really struggling to find an example because we've planted our garlic already, so all the ones that are not great, sealed, that haven't got outer skin so much, I've already actually kind of used. But ones, this one's a half-used bulb. Apologies for not looking at the camera here. I think that was my husband just walking past the window. But you see the outer skin isn't complete. Sometimes they go like that. It tends to be when you're growing garlic, and if they're watered irregularly, then the outer skin will start to split. Up here we have very little rain in July, and then we get quite a bit coming down in August, so it can be quite infrequent, and that's what happens with these. And these are the ones we tend to use to break up for planting. So this other one has been half used. I've used some of these cloves to plant with, and these are really big fat cloves of garlic. These are the size I want to be planting. Sometimes, this hasn't got any small cloves in the centre, but if there are smaller cloves in the centre, I won't plant those. I will only plant the large ones, unless that one's a really big one. I'm not going to plant that because that'd be such a waste. But that one's a really big one. This one's all those are really large. They would all be for planting, and any smaller ones that were left over would just go in the kitchen. I'll cook with them in the next couple of weeks or something like that. So I'll break up those into all the separate cloves, and then I'll be going to plant them in the garden. So we'll take you down the garden and I'll show you how we do that next. Now, we planted our garlic in here the other day. I've got these boards on here to stop the cats digging in here, and as you can see, our cloves of garlic, where's the other one? There's one there, and there's one are in here, and we have another row over here. So we've planted these, we've got 4 rows, and the rows are roughly a foot apart, and the cloves are roughly about 6 inches apart, maybe. Yeah, about 6 inches apart. You can hear a big flock of geese going over. Right, so I've took one of these cloves out that isn't too dirty, so we can see what we're working with. So you can see this papery end is the top, and that end there is the root end. So what we're going to do is, imagine there's no hole there. We've kind of loosened up the soil. Just get your clove and gently press it in, and don't even have to bury it, just kind of leave it. That's it, that's all there is to it. Let me take another one out to show you. Imagine that's level. The top probably 3 inches of the soil has been loosened up with the garden fork. You find that's the papery end, that's the root end, and find where you want to put it, and just kind of use your finger, and then just kind of press it in. And the top of the clove is probably about 1 inch from the surface, but we don't even bother covering them up, as you can see. Just pressed in, and then we've just covered them over to stop the cats digging in there and to stop the birds pulling them out. But there isn't really many birds at this time of year. Onions are the worst in the spring. We tend to get birds pulling those out, thinking it's something interesting to eat, and they just lay them on the surface. But no, garlic's under there, and we've planted 60 cloves in here. Next is about 6 inches apart, and 4 rows of them around a foot apart each row. And we'll have a really good crop of those, and you'll get a whole bulb of garlic off each of those cloves as well. We usually plant our garlic around kind of October time. It's obviously October now. Last year we didn't do it until beginning of December. It just ended up being quite late. It's quite bright out here. Normally we do it in the autumn time. We used to plant our garlic in January time, but we found planting in the autumn just works so much better. Garlic needs a cold snap really to go really well, and quite I wouldn't say a long growing season, but we have such a short growing season at an Orkney that it needs that little bit extra, and it just grows so much better. So we'll plant our garlic around this time. It puts on a bit of growth underground, you won't really see anything, and then it gets a cold snap, and then which it really likes, and then puts on some more top growth, and then it'll kind of sit dormant for a time over the coldest parts of the winter. We've had the shoots be 6 inches high and then sit under 4 inches of snow, and it's perfectly fine. It doesn't harm it in any way. Other than that, we just let it grow. Basically, we keep the beds weeded. Certainly in the spring in summer when we get lots of weed growth happening, we just keep it weeded. If any garlic scapes grow, which are the stems and the seed top flowers and seed heads, we just snap them off, and I just use them in cooking. Put them in all sorts. You just use them in anything. Just chop them up. And once they get to a good size, we think it's about right for lifting, we lift them on a dry day and put them out on a drying rack, which I will show you. We make a drying rack with some of this, which is like 1 inch square, I don't know what you call this stuff, metal mesh, and at the moment it's on some insulation board, but we put it on a wooden frame that John just cobbled together, but you could rest it on anything, and you could also use anything as a drying rack. Chicken wire, anything you think where the air can circulate around the garlic bulbs. So just lay them out on here and let them dry off, and basically wait for the tops of the garlic to kind of shrivel and go all, to not really have any green left on of the leaves that are on the tops. We don't chop the leaves off when we lift them, we leave them on. If you chop them off, the garlic bulbs will just try to put on extra growth. So leave the tops on and let the tops die back themselves. Once the outer skin has dried quite nicely, we peel the outer layer off, the very, very outer layer, which will be dirty and grubby. Peel that off and leave in the next layer underneath intact, which will be nice and clean, and let that completely dry out as well. That means when you come to use the garlic in the kitchen, you're not getting dirt all over your hands, which is then going to getting dirt all over the garlic when you're trying to cook with it. You've got rid of that most outer layer of dirty garlic skin on it. When the tops are completely dried off, we basically we take them indoors, make sure they're completely dry, and chop off what's left on the wilted and dyed back tops of the garlic, and then we leave a little wee stem on the top of the garlic bulbs, which I will show you again. As you can see, this is a clove of garlic. This is a bulb clove of garlic. This is a bulb of garlic, which is completely dry, and we've left around 1/2 inch of stem at the top, and that's a hard stem. That is just a soft stem garlic, or soft neck garlic. This would all be quite floppy. So the stuff you buy from the supermarket tends to be quite short on the top, and it'll be quite soft. That's quite hard. Usually soft neck garlic is supposed to store longer, but we've not found that to be the case. We found the hard neck definitely works better for us. And soft neck garlic, you could plait it because this would be flexible, but you can't with a hard neck because it has this hard stem through this section. So we just trim it right back when it's completely dried out, and it stores really, really well. Now, we live in quite a damp climate most of the year round. Like July we get very little rain, but the rest of the year we get quite a lot, and we get a lot of very strong, really cold winds on Orkney as well, which can cause a lot of damage to the crops. There's a lot of things we can't grow very well up here. Garlic surprisingly grows really, really well, as do onion to a certain degree. I think garlic will probably grow a lot better in a drier climate, and but we seem to do perfectly fine. It's just slight little adaptations that you have to make. If you were obviously in a drier climate, you'd want to water your garlic fairly regular, otherwise you'll get splitting of the bulbs, but we pretty much let it just get on with itself. I'm trying to think if there's something else that would be useful. You could mulch your garlic with I don't know, a straw or something. We don't. It's very windy here. If we put straw around our plants, it's just going to blow away. Last year we planted our garlic in one of our new raised beds. That was the first year we've actually done that, and truthfully it didn't make any difference. It's made a big difference to some of the other plants we've grown. It's been really good, but for the garlic I don't think it's made any difference to the yield. It just made it planting and weeding and harvesting easier, simply because of them being raised up rather than being right down on the ground. But other than that, it hasn't made a difference. It's got much better, well drained obviously, and the soil is less damp. But because the root system on garlic is fairly shallow and the bulb grows up kind of on the surface or just below the surface, I haven't found it made a huge difference to the garlic. The onions I think have been better this last harvest, because they are more affected by the damp soil I think than the garlic. That's what we found anyway. And other plants that we've grown in there, such as cabbages, have done really, really well. But the garlic, a raised bed is not essential. In fact, a raised bed isn't essential for the other plants as well. It's just that we've had better results. So, yep, I think that's it. If there's any other questions that you can think of that I might have missed, just pop them down in the comments section below and I can get back to you there. And I hope that was helpful. So feel free to like, subscribe and all that malarkey. So, okay, bye.